Welcome to the Fish Bowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and joining me today is Juicy. We are doing our LSU versus Missouri preview here today. Without further ado, let me introduce everybody to my co-host, Juicy. How you doing today, Juicy?
I am fantastic.
He is
What's
doing
going on?
fantastic. You hear that right there? He's doing fantastic. So let's talk about what happened. I know the question that's going to be asked here. What happened to LSU and Oxford, Juicy?
Well, there was no defense. Everybody's fussing about the defense. It's true. I guess LSU just, I guess ultimately it comes down to LSU just not uh, getting the one stop it needed on defense or the turnover it got that Ole Miss had gotten. I know Ole Miss got a couple more stops, and I think they had like one more turnover. So LSU just lost that battle because obviously they needed defense was gonna stop them. Neither defense going to hold offense to under 200 yards anyway. So
Yeah. So there's been it's everywhere, okay? Like, is LSU's front seven bad? Is LSU secondary bad? Is it Matt House coaching style? It's a little bit all over the place. I don't really have a pinpoint of what it is here. I mean, Ole Miss had one of the highest scoring offenses in the SEC this year. So we did last week. You go listen to our podcast last week. We did say it was gonna be the two of the highest scoring, like a big shootout game. We
and
did
I
mention that
and I will
in our
say it
last
actually
LSU episode. Wait, what'd you see?
we can say it is the two highest scoring offenses in the SEC. So kind of were. You kind of wouldn't expect anything less than a high scoring game, but
Yeah, that was a very interesting game for sure. But like LSU for a long time has prided itself on having a very tough defense that would shut people down, and the
a
offense was doing enough
horrible
to
offense.
win games.
Most of my childhood, I was the product of offense. For pretty much all of my childhood, I was the
So
product.
yeah, basically what's going on this year is basically the role reversal. What's had to happen of a reversal of what you normally expect to come out of LSU, right? A defensive juggernaut led by just a game managing quarterback and offense. Now, this is completely a different aspect that we're seeing here. LSU got beat on the ground, LSU got beat through the air. So I think it might have something to do with scheme, maybe they're playing here. Um, that might be part of the issue. Do I think Matt House needs to get taken out and not be defensive coordinator? I mean, the Tigers have won games. Looking at scoring, there's only two times they've allowed over 40 points in a game. That was against Florida State, and that was against Ole Miss this year. The one that came closest to that was Arkansas, which they won, and that's 31 points they gave up. Now, in those games with the two teams that they lost to, Ole Miss 4-1, Florida State is 4-0. LSU has not won against a ranked opponent at the current recording of the games that's being displayed on the schedule so far. They haven't won against the top 25 team yet in regards of it being a preseason or whatever it is. But this is going to be a very important factor coming in this weekend here because they're going on the road to take on Missouri. Missouri's 5-0. They're ranked number 21 in the country. GC, what can you tell us about Missouri coming up in this matchup here?
Well, Missouri, they've got their their offense is better than years past. They haven't. Obviously they got great quarterback, great quarterback play. I'm trying to remember the quarterback's name. Let me see if I could pull it up real quick.
Well,
I
while
wasn't
you do
quite
that,
prepared, but
I'm gonna I'm gonna pull up Missouri's like ranks and stuff like that of where they go at, what they kind of like showing and what's their predicted results here. So let's look at this real quick here. Missouri is predicted. This is our the predictor that we have. We go on every single week. We do it for the Cajuns and we do it for LSU. So it's got Missouri finishing 7-5 and being 3-5 in the SEC. It has them losing to LSU by 1 point, 27-26, which is interesting here. So guys that are between
LSU is 4-point favorites.
yeah, on the predictors got them winning by 1. Advanced stats here. It's got their offense being ranked 86
Brady
in
Cook,
points per
that's the
game.
quarterback's name.
Wait, what'd you see? Can you repeat that again?
Brady Cook, Missouri's quarterback. He's been playing great. Brady Cook.
Okay. So like defense per points for Missouri is 76 in the country. That's how many points they give up a game. And they're ranked 80th in the country in margin of victory by 11.2. So the remaining strength of schedule in the ELO is 7th. Remaining strength of schedule opponent win percentage they have is 30th. So Missouri does have a very difficult road ahead of them in terms of what the predictor is saying. It's got them losing more games because of that, even though they're 5-0. It's got them finishing 7-5.
So
It's expecting them to win 2 out of 2 and be going 2-5, starting with this game here. But Missouri hasn't really played much competition this year.
no, they
They're
haven't played a lot of competition. I was gonna get there, but
Yeah, like their
that
biggest win
that
so far this year is
was
Kansas
Brady
State.
Cook.
Their biggest
Stat
win is
wise,
Kansas. Wait, go
yeah.
Juicy.
I was gonna say stat wise right now, Brady Cook, he's from what I see, he doesn't he takes care of the ball. He doesn't turn the ball over. He has 11 touchdowns, no picks on the year. Um so yeah, that'll definitely help you go 5-0 if you protect the ball and not turn it over.
Now,
Missouri's
like,
offense ninth in the country.
yeah. Now, Missouri, like, if we're going to try to use the argument against LSU, well, they played Ole Miss and they played Florida State. Now, if LSU's defense can step up and, like, get some 3-and-outs and maybe rest their guys a little bit here, that's what's hurting the defense. They stay out there for so long trying to get stops. And, it's not the offense's fault. LSU's offense scores pretty quick here. And, that's a byproduct of the passing game. That's them scoring a lot of points real quick because the offense the first game looked a little flat in the second half, but they found themselves right in the first game of the year against Florida State. They went on since that first game to score 72, 41, 34, and 49. So they've scored over 40 points in 3 of the last 4 games here when we get to Missouri. And Missouri's one of those that I think LSU comparing the schedule between both these teams here, LSU's definitely had a tougher schedule compared to Missouri. I've definitely seen tougher competition, so I do lean in confidence more toward LSU being more prepared to play tougher competition in that regard there. But I'm not going to take away from Missouri. I think they're a very good ball club. I think they're going to do what they got to do to make this work here. So let's see what the predictor has for LSU going forward for the rest of the season here. So it had LSU last week. I think they had them finishing 8-4. This week it rose it up to 9-3. So the only loss it has this predictor for the rest of the year is at Alabama and Tuscaloosa. That's the
But that Alabama's offense can keep up with LSU's offense. So I think LSU's LSU still has there's still plenty of season left. They only have one loss in conference play right now.
and that loss was to Ole Miss in the West.
And
Now,
their next two games are definitely winnable with Auburn and Missouri. I mean, they're definitely a lot more winnable than
so
the Alabama game.
yeah, so in charge of the SEC West here, Ole Miss beat LSU, so they have the head-to-head win. Ole Miss lost to Alabama, so Ole Miss would have to lose somewhere in the next whatever time frame for LSU to get ahead of them in the SEC West standings because right now they're tied, which you don't want to drop any SEC West games. So like this Missouri one, I think probably more a tier of like they could probably uh I mean all SEC games count because all conference games, but I don't know why I was thinking West there. I'm losing my mind a little bit here every day, guys. You have to bear with me a little bit, um but let me backtrack here. So LSU, if they can figure out if they can figure out how to beat Missouri, Auburn, and go into Tuscaloosa and win, they're gonna have three conference games. And Ole Miss's schedule, once you get to that point, like who they're playing next and everything, they have Arkansas, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, and then Georgia. So
We got
if
Georgia.
LSU can survive against Alabama. If they can beat Alabama, that would be a big win for them to return to the SEC championship game like they did last year. Because after the Georgia game, they got Mississippi State, which you can't predict rivalry games. It's like that's one thing you can never predict in college football, how these rivalry games are being played here. So I think so. Getting back to the defense here of LSU, I think the problem is, I think it's a little bit of everybody. Like it's guys is not understanding the scheme. Maybe they got to dumb down the playbook of the
The
defense for the
secondary
guys.
is real young, though. The secondary was the biggest question mark, and they are some pretty young new guys in
Yeah,
this.
like we you know what we talked about this in our LSU preview before. Like whenever I was talking about looking at the scheme of this defense and stuff, I said I thought the weakest part of this team was LSU's secondary. So you can read up on that and listen to that podcast, the 2023 LSU preview that we did before the season even started, because we were discussing this, and you remember us talking about that, huh, Juicy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we were talking about that, and we're just trying to see like is this thing going to get better? Is this is really a school of hard knocks for LSU secondary because they're going to get beat up, they're going to get torched, but this is they have to learn how to adapt in those situations. You know, getting your head around when the ball is being thrown towards you at the right time to force those
I
pass deflections.
I
That's a
wish those
part of the
young
game of
guys would
football.
learn. I
Wait, what
wish
do you
those
see?
I wish those young guys would learn. It's okay if you get burnt. It's okay to tackle the receiver or yank him down and just take the 15 yards. It's not the NFL. You don't get a spot of the foul. Just take the 15 yards and save the touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, you'd rather give it that than a 60-yard bomb that goes in for a score.
Exactly. Just take the
Yeah.
pass interference and move on to the next play.
Toward the okay, I was interested in one thing when I was watching the LSU game because the other person on our podcast with us is Jalen. Me and Jalen was watching the game together, and one thing we had said was, why not they let Ole Miss score? Because if Ole Miss would have scored, LSU would have had about 3 minutes, and then you just kill clock until you got a chance. Got to think if LSU would have scored a touchdown because they won 49-55.
Then
And if
LSU had a chance. Oh, LSU
yeah,
had more
if
than a
they would
chance.
whoever had the ball last in that game was gonna win.
They were in the red zone.
Yeah, like if they could have just let Ole Miss score, you milk the clock down, you get a touchdown late, and then you kick the extra point, you win this game 56-55. So I do question a little bit the LSU coaching staff here is look, you've proven that you can't stop these guys this game. Let's just try to get our offense on the field because they can't stop our offense. Nobody was stopping anybody that game. So you let him score, then you can possibly, get down the field and actually go. Because if you had 2 minutes, I guarantee you that LSU offense would have scored in those last 2 minutes of that football game.
I don't have a problem with the. I mean, I wish they had a little bit more time. It might have been a difference, but though they handled for the most part. Well, they got the help of that horse collar tackle too. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I was telling Heather they ought to just. I was telling my wife they ought to just let Ole Miss just score. Some teams do just like let them score and save time on the clock. But
It's a strategy. Like if your defense is not stopping anybody in a game, and y'all both are just boom boom back and forth in a game like that, you try to match them. But at some point, you got to realize what's going on in the field as a coaching staff and be like, look, maybe we should let these guys score and put their hands on their offense because they got the hot hand. They're putting the ball in the end zone. They're scoring points here, but we need to time this out to be precise because you don't want to score too quickly, but you don't want to score too late either. That's a or like try to score later in their drive because you're like, okay, you're pressing at that point. So I think at that point, I think LSU did fine. I think they probably would have won the game if they would have did that kind of idea
In
there.
the
But
game, if LSU could string some wins together, they really can help Jaden Daniels get talk more about being a Heisman contender because he's definitely putting up Heisman type numbers right now.
yeah, he Jaden Daniels is not the problem with this football team. I don't know how many times I have to say this on Facebook, Twitter,
He should be
Instagram.
a high,
Well,
should be
like
a Heisman candidate right now.
I don't understand LSU fans at some point because listen, they like you swear up and down. If you read the comments on social media about Jaden Daniels, my gosh, you would think that this man was the worst quarterback that you ever seen ever put
Hey,
on
I
LSU's
will say,
uniform.
I'll be the first to tell you, I was I criticized that man when he needed to be criticized last year and praised him, but this year he ain't got nothing but praise from me. And I tell you what, I think he's light years. I think he's light years ahead of last year.
Oh yeah, like he's definitely a better quarterback. That second half of last year
I,
definitely
I
carried over into
thinking,
this year.
I think this year he's making all the right reads, and he's actually not trying to take off running first. I think he's making all the right throws he needs to make.
Yeah, like this year, he's definitely Jaden Daniels is more confident in pocket. He's able to like make reads this year, and he's running the ball when he has to when the play breaks down and there's nobody open, and you got to escape with your feet. That's what makes him good. I think it's just the byproduct of the defense of because we were looking at this in the preseason, and we thought Jaden Daniels would be like, you know,
He should be a
this is who we
candidate.
thought he was gonna be. There was nothing like saying that we didn't think he wasn't gonna be this kind of quarterback. We thought he would be this kind of quarterback at this time whenever the season started. Now, when the defense like they had some people on there like they were trying to bench him, start the Nuss bus, and I'm like, I get the obsession with Nussmeyer. He's gonna be a good quarterback when he gets out there on the field, but this is Jane Daniels' team right now. Let him ride it out, and we'll figure it out once we get there. But I I think LSU's defense, that secondary, this is what happens. Like I don't know if it's a transfer portal issue. You just might miss on some guys. That's a thing that happens, but it is a young secondary. It is very young. But I will caution this about the transfer portal. There is always a reason why a player is in the transfer portal. Some coaches whiff on talent. It happens. But if they're in the transfer portal because they ain't getting any playing time, or they might either have academic issues, they might not even be talented enough to actually supposedly see the field for that team that they're playing against, or they transfer just like the coach. There's a million different reasons why, whether they miss their family back home, and that is something that will be, that's multiple reasons why. Transfer portal add-ons, you got to be very careful about how you view them. If they're one of the best players in the game, then like what we see with LSU women's basketball, that is one thing that you have to take a look at and see. So Juicy, with all being said here, who wins on Saturday, LSU or Missouri?
I'm still gonna go with LSU only because they're a little bit more battle tested, have had tougher competition. I mean, not taking away from Missouri, technically, it's like the great Herm Edwards once said. I mean, technically, if you look at just the record, you are what your record says you are. So I mean, they're not nothing to take lightly, but all LSU's defense, I'm not I wouldn't even. I would challenge LSU's defense to just come up with. They don't have to even be like a top five, even if you a top 20 defense. All they got to do is just be a semi mediocre defense. Get a get. 5, 6 stops along the way. Stop them 5, 6 times. Hold them to field goals. Just at least stop the touchdowns. Hold them to field goals, and let the offense do the offense is going to score their points. Just find a way to minimize theirs, whether it's getting a few more stops or just holding them to field goals. Like I said, something. That's all they got to do. All the defense has to do is manage the game, and the offense can take care of the rest. And I believe LSU will be all right. I don't think Missouri's offense is quite as good as Ole Miss, so that's why I think they'll win this game. Vegas only gives LSU 4 points. I think LSU can win at least by a 14-point margin.
Yeah, I'm agree with you there. I think LSU does win against Missouri. I think that the battle tested. I don't really know how good Missouri's team actually is this year, even though they're undefeated. Now, granted, that strength of schedule for Missouri has been very weak so far. As we get into this is the biggest game they played all year. This LSU football game right here. So, how good are they? Are they good? Are they bad? I don't know how good they actually are. I think Missouri's a pretty decent team this year. I think they'll do very well in the SEC East. Then they're going to get a couple more wins this year as it closes out here. Predictors thinking they're going to start losing games pretty soon. So I'm kind of on the side of the predictor with this one here. But I do think that I think LSU wins by 10 in this game with Missouri. I'm going to be a little more aggressive than Vegas here. I think Vegas is not that far off, but I think they're missing it by a touchdown. So I got LSU beat Missouri by 10. For his sakes, I'll give a score here. I say LSU wins. Actually, I'll go 11 because it's kind of hard to put up 10-point football game, but 42-31, LSU wins. I think the LSU's offense rolls in this game here. And
Yeah, if I had a score up there too, I'll say 45-31. I'll give them 3 extra points.
I just don't see like Missouri's defense slowing down LSU's offense. There's too many playmakers on that offense for Missouri's defense.
And another thing that I forgot to mention too when we was talking about the game, I think this LSU offense is at least just as good as the 2019 offense with Joe Burrow.
I think you might be stretching a little bit right there.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, you can make arguments for it, but that's a whole nother episode. But we got to get to our top 25 picks of the week here. So number 20, Kentucky taking on number 1, Georgia. I got Georgia winning this one. Kentucky. This is gonna be a good one here, but Kentucky's definitely a long shot in this one. But I got Georgia. Who you got, Juicy?
uh, I mean, I'm you know what? Why not? Why not? You know what? I'm gonna go with the upset here. I'm gonna take Kentucky. I'm feeling lucky. I'm gonna
Okay,
take
all right.
Kentucky to
Yeah,
pull this
already
thing
starting
off.
out. We already starting out like this. All right. Number
Like the
2,
dog,
Michigan.
the dog.
Number 2. Number 2, Michigan versus Minnesota. I got Michigan winning this one. Minnesota did look good against UL last week. They ended up winning that game, but I think Michigan's just too much for them to handle. Who you got, Juicy?
Yeah, I got the Wolverines.
Oh, okay. So we're both picking the Wolverines here. So moving on to the next game, the Red River Shootout here. Number 12, Oklahoma versus number 3, Texas. So
Ooh, this was a good game.
fun fact about this series here, Juicy, is that it's tied. It is completely tied. FBI, the Texas, I mean, Vegas has Texas winning. FBI predictor has Oklahoma winning it. Um, I'm gonna just say hook 'em horns. Texas wins and they beat Oklahoma. Who you got, Juicy?
Excuse me. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna agree with you and go with the Longhorns, but it sucks that this game plays at the same time as the LSU game because I really like to watch it. Maybe YouTube TV will have one of them deals where you can watch like 4 games at one time.
Oh, split screen thing, which I love. That's like my favorite thing this whole
I'm
football
hoping they
season.
have that Saturday. I'm hoping that would be nice.
Yep. Maryland versus number 4, Ohio State. I got Ohio State. They should win this one easy. Who you got, Juicy?
Yeah, I think they'll win this one easily. Ohio State.
Number 10, Notre Dame versus number 25, Louisville. Notre Dame suffered a loss to Ohio State earlier this year. They had a tough game against Duke and they got back to their winning ways here. I thought Duke might have been able to upset Notre Dame last week, but I was wrong. But I do got Notre Dame winning this one. Who you got, Juicy?
I'm a here. I'm gonna go with another upset here. I think the Cardinals are staying undefeated. Louisville's look good a little bit this year. I'm feeling high on the Cardinals right now.
All right, I'm gonna see if you got another upset in your underneath your sleeves for this one. Number 11, Alabama versus Texas A&M. Even though Alabama has struggled a good bit this year, Alabama's the road favorite. They're favored by 2 points here. This is a tough one here. Max Johnson's been playing very well for Texas A&M. Jalen Milroe and Alabama, will they find their groove on offense this year? This is a very interesting thing. They seem like they're kind of in a rut, you know. Um, I think Alabama loses. Give me A&M. I think they pull the upset. Who you got, Juicy?
Go Aggies, baby! I'm going with the upset too.
Oh, I got some upsets here. Yeah, because I'm just not. I think Max Johnson and them are going to be able to spread the ball around on
Think
Alabama.
I think this week I'm feeling like this is upset. This is my upset week right here.
Okay, so rest of the top 25 matchups we got here. Here we go. Virginia Tech versus number 5, Florida State. I got Florida State winning that one. Who you got, Juicy?
Oh, I got the Seminoles.
Seminoles. All right. Arizona versus number 9, USC. Give me the offense of the USC Trojans. I got them winning. Who you got, Juicy?
Give me the fighting Lincoln Riley, son. The
The
Trojans.
fighting Lincoln Rileys. Number 13, Washington State versus UCLA. I got Washington State. Who you got, Juicy?
I'm gonna take the Cougars as well. It's interesting. UCLA's favorite though.
Yeah, they're favored by 3.5. The FBI predict rate, we got them at 64.7%. So, kind of. I mean, UCLA has been good this year. Don't get me wrong. I just don't. I think Washington State's got something to prove this year. Like the coach is using this like that conference realignment. Like nobody wanted you. You go out there and you prove them all wrong. So look, I get it, man. Like you coaches use anything for motivation for their players, and that's probably something that's been used in their locker room. Syracuse versus number 14, UNC. Give me North Carolina, man. I think they take care of business.
Yeah, I'll take the Tar Heels, baby.
Number 15, Oregon State versus California. Give me Oregon State. I think they take care of business. Who you got, Juicy?
Yeah, I like the Beavers. Give me the Oregon State.
Arkansas versus number 16, Ole Miss here. Ole Miss had a big win last week against LSU. Ole Miss got fined for storming the field. And can I just say something here? Um, what I feel like recently there's been a lot of teams storming the field when they shouldn't have been storming the field anyway.
I
I can
don't
understand
think
Tennessee and
LSU.
Alabama won last year. I don't think that was a big enough win to storm the field against LSU. It's kind of almost like like you've been there before. That's not me being salty or anything, but it just seems like a lot of college teams are doing it more often. Like I say, storm the field whenever you beat a top 10 team, and LSU was not a top 10 team. So with that being said, here, I got Ole Miss winning. Who you got, Juicy?
Hotty toddy.
Georgia Tech versus number 17 Miami. Give me the U.
I like
Who you got?
Miami. Miami's actually looked pretty good this year. I like
Yeah.
Miami.
Number 24 Fresno State versus Wyoming. Give me Fresno, man. Fresno State, let's do it. Who you got, Juicy?
Man, they all Wyoming almost. I mean, when they gave Texas a run, you know what? Give me the Cowboys.
Hey,
Another
that's
up.
that's not a bad pick. That's not a bad pick. I thought about it. But yeah, I think that kind of does it. That's all for our top 25 picks here. But yeah, Juicy, let's talk a little bit, man. What about the storm in the field stuff? What you think about it?
I think I mean I agree with you. I don't think LSU constitutes storming the field. I certainly can tell you that Tiger Stadium, that LSU fans wouldn't have stormed the field if the game would have been in Baton Rouge and LSU would have won. I don't. They definitely wouldn't have stormed the field. So I don't understand that. Now if well, it's gonna be in Georgia, so never mind that. But somebody like Louis, well, like if this upset happens, Louisville beats Notre Dame. I think that would be
Because Notre Dame's a
justifiable
top 10 team.
in
They're a
Louisville
top
storming
10
the field.
team. I mean, they're justified. If Louisville upsets Notre Dame, they're a top 10 team that they just beat. They can storm the field. Now, the only way you're storming the field against a ranked team is if a G5 school that has a, history of not being so great at football or whatever. Like I'll use UL as an example when they beat Texas A&M back in the 1990s. I think 96 it was. That's a perfect example of storming the field. We're doing it way too much. It waters it down whenever, it does happen. You're just like, oh, whatever. But so yeah, like I
If
know we're probably
Minnesota,
preaching to the
if Minnesota pulls off the upset of all upsets here, they could definitely be justified in storming the field over
yeah,
Michigan.
but that's justified. Minnesota's not ranked. Ohio State's in the top 10 in the country, that's
Michigan, number
justifiable.
two.
There's teams you definitely storm the field for if you beat them and enter the top 10. Like if like beating Alabama this year, they're like it's like okay, so Alabama, they lost a game already. If they lose again, I wouldn't storm the field for them this year because they're not that same Alabama of old. Like they lose two or three times, like the LSU one last year. I understand LSU's kind of had losing a lot of losing with Alabama since Nick Saban's been there. I understand it's
The
Nick
last
Saban.
year, LSU kind of split. The last four matchups they
Yeah, like
each
I'm,
against each
but
other since the
so
eight
like
game
that kind of like
Alabama.
so should LSU even storm the field if they beat Alabama not this year but like next year and Nick Saban still be there? I don't think they should. I don't think
Oh,
it's the same Alabama like they used to, but that's a whole nother conversation we can have for another day. All right. Thank y'all for tuning
and
into the Fishbowl
there is
Radio here. Wait, what you see? What you got?
even when you said Nick Saban if he's gonna be there next year, but sources to him saying what happens.
Just yeah, like like Nick Saban, he's kind of getting older up there in the game, right? So I mean, how many years does Nick Saban have left of coaching? It's a good question to ponder. But I feel like he loves coaching, so he probably do another like 10 years or whatever, but we'll see. All right, thank y'all for tuning into the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. Hope you have a great and wonderful week. We'll see y'all next week here when we recap Louisiana Raging Cajuns versus Texas State, and we'll do a recap of Ole Miss. I mean, and of LSU versus Missouri. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you have a great, wonderful night. Have a good night, Fishbowl Nation.